Interesting analogy, because he actually got a worse punishment in prison sentence than any of the NFL players who beat their wives.
Who's he? Oh, Vic.
Michael Vick did, yeah.
Did he really work?
Yeah, so apparently
the dogs,
there is worse punishment if you beat a dog than if you beat a human being.
Jeff Tack, he said something like this too, your husband.
Actually, boyfriend.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
We celebrate 15 years in February.
Get out of here. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I don't know why I thought maybe significant other is how it referred.
15 years.
And I jumped to husband, wife. I'm sorry.
No. It's totally fine.
So your partner, can I say that?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Jeff, your partner, said that a person can get up to 10 years for stealing a car, Grand Theft Auto, versus murder. They might get less time than that.
Yeah.
That's what he said. And I was like, what? I never ended up looking it up. Well, I think that's what he said. Maybe I got it wrong. Doesn't that sound crazy?
No, actually, I listened to the podcast where he said that. So I remember that. And he was referring to the white cops who shot Laquan McDonald on the South Side, who got a very, very light punishment. And that was murder. He was found guilty and given a very light sentence, much less than, like, people are in jail for smoking weed for less time than that guy.
Yeah.
So.
And by the way, it reminds me of how I've been hearing that, hey, could feel free to grab any of these if you want.
Sure. I may do that.
Yeah. I was hearing how I was listening to something, they're like, hey, could getting a cannabis license, which I can't wait to hear your opinion on this.
Yeah.
Getting a cannabis license, like if you're a cannabis dealer, and the money you have to pay for that, could that money be used as drug war reparations?
That's an interesting idea.
Right? Meaning like all these people who are in jail right now for marijuana or whatever other drug offenses, could they be given, now that everything's legal?
So, yeah. And actually, Illinois has been given a lot of credit for doing some great things along those lines. So what they're issuing social equity credit. So it is much...
Social equity. That's cool.
Yeah. And so it is easier to get a license to have a cannabis company, particularly like a retail dispensary, if you come from a neighborhood that has been more affected by the war on drugs in a negative way than other neighborhoods. And so they have looked at like Chicago zip codes. And if you come from one of the zip codes that has been negatively affected by the war on drugs, so mostly traditionally Black and Hispanic neighborhoods.
Right.
If you have lived in one of those neighborhoods for a certain amount of time, I don't want to get into the details because I'm sure I'll get them wrong, but you are considered a social equity applicant. And a lot of other states around the nation are looking at Illinois as being very progressive in that way. And, we'll see how it plays out.
Something sounds cool about that.
Yeah.
Something also doesn't feel right about that. From the perspective of like, look, getting stoned still has an impact on the human brain and on human behavior. Getting kind of high or a buzz, great. Mm-hmm. But getting stoned can kind of a person up. So like if it's way easier for Englewood, let's say, to get a bunch of cannabis dispensaries, now you have a cannabis store on every corner in Englewood. Something doesn't sound right about that.
Yeah. No, if that's the way it was worked, that definitely would not be right.
Social equity is now let's really destroy
the object is not to put a bunch of recreational cannabis shops just in challenged neighborhoods.
I hope not.
Opposite is true. It's actually the ownership. It's saying we want people from these neighborhoods to be able to create wealth and to create like
through cannabis.
People are talking about this is going to create hundreds of Black millionaires. For example, it doesn't matter where that dispensary goes. So you could put that dispensary in, they could put it in Bucktown and put it on the north side of Chicago.
So the owner might be living in Englewood, but he can own the cannabis store elsewhere.
Exactly. So it's to create ownership and wealth among people from these communities that have challenges for doing that. Yeah.
With that, let's get started. Welcome to Business News and Other Shit. What a great way to start this podcast. You jumped right into, your shit there, Margy. You know your cannabis.
That's I guess who I am now.
Well, so listeners, we have Margy Sweeney here with her amazing daughter, Maddy Sweeney. Did I get that right?
Awesome.
We don't have Maddy mic'd up, but that's cool. Thank you for coming, guys.
Yeah, happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
And you are you're kind of a PR marketing guru, especially in Illinois.
Like very in our specific industries, I like to think so. So
I saw on your footer of your email something like, number 13 or 14 PR marketing firm Did I see that right?
Yeah.
So you're like one of the top PR marketing. Is that in Illinois? Is that where? In the U.S.?
So we're number 14 in Chicago.
In Chicago.
And then we are...
That is nothing to sneeze at.
On the O'Dwyer's list. So
what's the O'Dwyer's list?
So
you said it like something important, and like Amr should know this. I'm like, what is that? No idea.
Yeah, in the PR industry, the O'Dwyer's list is pretty
the
respected.
List? Okay.
Nationally.
And you're on it?
Yeah.
Ooh, what number?
Yeah. Well, we're 14 in Chicago, and we're in the top 20 nationally for financial services. So
Get the F out of here.
Yeah.
That's a big deal.
Yeah.
How long you been in business?
8 years. 8 years.
8 years?
8 years.
That's pretty good. That's John Dolder, guys, assistant producer.
Hello.
He is not depressed. That's just how he sounds.
Yep. Just sound like what? Droopy?
Droopy.
Yeah, Droopy.
Droopy.
That was one of the dwarves, right? Droopy.
Oh, I don't know. Oh, the
like
doors.
that.
I pictured
Should
the.
have been.
I
Should have been
pictured the.
Droopy.
Definitely
Yeah.
should have been a dwarf name.
Yeah.
I pictured the ejaculation on "There's Something About Mary," her ear, when you said droopy. Do you guys remember that scene?
Ejaculation on the.
Yeah.
It seems.
It was semen or sperm from Ben Stiller. Do you remember this movie, John? Did you watch it?
I don't.
I didn't know this was in my children's cartoons.
That was 10 years ago. You're
Yeah,
right.
you know.
10 years ago, you were 12 years old, right?
Yeah, you were probably
Yeah.
sneaking out to watch that movie and giggling about it with your
Yeah,
friends.
I was probably watching it on the internet while my parents were still at work.
There you go.
Yes, that
Yeah.
sounds exactly right.
I was sneaking off to start a company. So
Yeah,
that was
8 years
fun.
ago, right?
Yeah.
So wow, so on the O'Dwyer's list, and so publicly, so Chicago and nationally.
Yeah, so our company name is Accrete, and it means Accrete is like accretion, business growth, and momentum. And
nice.
we started out super buttoned up. I've been working with commercial real estate developers for 25 years. We do commercial real estate developers and banks, and then last year we kind of took a left turn and we decided to take on the cannabis industry. So
So
we do all
weird.
three.
So weird,
Yeah,
but so
it was
cool.
Something new. Like sometimes you just
Good for you.
gotta
Totally shake it
gotta
up.
do something new.
Yo, I used to be an investment banker, a salesman on the J.P. Morgan trading floor.
Yeah,
And let me tell you, this is something new.
this pays better, right?
Way better. That was
course it
paying in
does.
the hundreds of thousands of dollars. This pays in the tens of dollars.
That is great. Congratulations.
That's a Lancey Richardson joke. I cannot steal that joke. I have to give credit to a wonderful guy named Lancey Richardson, a.k.a. Lancey Joe. You can see him every Thursday night at Chicago Joe's, the Comedy Tub. I perform there sometimes.
Awesome.
So cool. I can't wait to talk about all this cool stuff have you done that you've done. Words aren't even coming out of my mouth correctly because I'm kind of sick, y'all. So please forgive me for that.
Yeah. Cheers.
Cheers. That's
to that.
right. You almost didn't come on the show. You were feeling kind of woozy early in the
I
week.
was flat out for about 7 days with the flu, but I'm back.
Yeah, you look healthy.
Yeah, I'm back to myself now.
Damn.
It's all good.
Good. Great. So, we were talking about cannabis. What a great start to this thing. So, let's talk a little bit about markets. And
Yeah.
you're in commercial real estate marketing. At least that's one of the things you
Yeah,
do.
absolutely.
Right. So, I mean, at some level, you're thinking about value, like real estate value.
Yeah.
So that's I feel like a lot of what I think about when I think about any sort of asset.
Right.
So this week, if we talk about the markets, that asset continues to go up. I mean, actually, this week it was pretty much flat. It didn't go up or down. It's down a little bit today on Friday when we are taping here. But in the middle of the week, it was a little higher because the Federal Reserve cut their interest rate.
Yep. Once again.
Once again, they want to keep driving those rates lower. And so Trump immediately came out and just railed on Jerome Powell and the Federal Reserve.
On Twitter, of course.
On Twitter, yeah. I just always
Because that's
pick,
where all serious business news should happen, is on
Twitter,
Of course, that's where you get all your news. Is on Twitter.
Yeah, I mean, done. Who needs actual places like the Wall Street Journal and things like that? We've got Trump's channel. We've got Trump tweeting on Twitter.
yeah. It's a wonderful place for finding all sorts of garbage, I feel like.
Absolutely.
It's like Twitter is kind of like,
Got a little of everything.
it's kind of like a landfill,
Yeah.
right? It literally does have a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
And the person overseeing the landfill does feel like our president.
It really does.
What would that be? The landfill overseer?
I don't know. Foursquare used to have that thing where you could be mayor of someplace.
What?
And yeah, you could. It was. And I mean, I don't
That's
think
the only way
anybody,
you check in at so many places, right?
Yeah, I don't think anyone really uses Foursquare anymore.
They definitely didn't go IPO.
It definitely, yeah, it definitely was fun to be like, okay, of the 3 people who have checked in on this corner, I am the mayor. I own this place.
Oh, so if like a bunch of people check in,
Yeah.
at
And then you could,
Wendy's,
it would actually send
you
out a
become the
tweet.
mayor of Wendy's.
Right. And you could tweet about it and you could be like, okay, Twitterverse, I am the mayor of this Wendy's.
And it's not even, it's
own
not even
this place.
Wendy's. It's the mayor of the
Yeah.
Wendy's on, Fullerton and Clybourne or whatever.
Oh, yeah. And it's like, completely 100% not legit at all. It's just a piece of software says you have checked in here the most, so you are the mayor. So it's a
And-
lot easier than winning an election, definitely.
With de Blasio and Buttigieg be running for president, I'm sure that, if you're a Foursquare mayor, you should also be able to run for president at that point too, right?
I mean, who needs actual,
Credentials?
credentials? Yeah.
Well,
I mean, I
our
think
current president has a lot of them.
exactly. So, we have lowered the bar. Now, I think being mayor on Foursquare, which I have to admit I'm not sure still exists, it should definitely allow you to run for president.
I used to actually have Foursquare on my phone. Let's see
Yeah.
if iPhone did this whole, hey, we it's not even on there anymore.
Yeah.
What was Foursquare exactly?
You go to Wendy's and you check in. I'm at Wendy's, and then you hopefully do it a lot, and you might get a coupon or something.
It's actually moved. There's geotagging for that a lot of retailers use in their social media. That Foursquare pioneered a lot of it, and I think just other platforms have taken over it. So now
Okay,
you get.
the predecessor.
Yeah, exactly. The whole idea is that if you volunteer where you are, then people who want to sell you stuff can know, okay, this is the foot traffic we got. We know these people are nearby. Like now when you geotag that you're near someplace, you will get a shower of coupons.
You are
and
totally
deals
a
and
marketing
stuff
pro.
that.
Like, what does geotag even mean? That's a great word. Do you know that word, John?
Not at all.
It's Big Brother is watching you. It's very Orwellian.
Oh, okay.
It basically means that based on a signal that your phone sends out, that a bunch of retailers know exactly who you are, where you are, and probably what you might want to buy.
So when you're using maps and it says where you're currently located,
Yeah.
then just a bunch of third parties
There's
are
a
using
lot of
it.
people who know
Super
that.
creepy.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, if you're really good at your private settings in your phone, you can make sure that stuff doesn't get out there.
Right. I do
But
understand that to be the case.
99% of people do not do in their phones everything that they would want to do to protect their own privacy. And honestly, let's face it, sometimes the Big Brother stuff is convenient. I definitely want a coupon if I'm walking by a Starbucks.
It's like, but hold on,
why
but
not?
right, but it's like it's your privacy. Like it's like
Yeah.
it's like you changing in your bedroom but not closing the curtains. I kind of feel like that's maybe not exactly what it's like, but come on now,
Yeah.
close the damn curtains.
Actually, I mean, what
I think that's too extreme.
No, it's true. But I mean, we all have the ability to close those curtains, right? We just
Yeah.
have to actually engage in the technology that we all carry
Don't
around.
be
in our
lazy. Not
pocket.
everyone wants to see you naked.
Right. No, people.
Right? Y'all don't want to
That's
see
a
me.
whole nother area of social media. We do social media for business.
All right. So all-time high stocks. Federal Reserve cut rates. Trump immediately was like, "Yo, you guys suck. You need to cut rates all the way down to 0." What this dude don't understand is like the Fed really doesn't have the firing power that it used to have. I mean, the Fed, in my opinion, how I always talk about it is like they're just pumping morphine into the economy when they lower interest rates. Morphine, or better, opioids,
Yeah.
using OxyContin from Purdue. That's what the Federal Reserve does. Purdue Pharma. And so it's like, yo, like the economy was already drugged up from so many different interventions that they did years ago.
Yeah.
And now they're trying to come back and intervene more and more and more. Do you guys like ever talk about this in the world of marketing for commercial real estate?
So, a lot of times we put our clients who are, the real thought leaders on this on TV to talk about it. So like if we are representing a bank, then we might put the analysts on TV to talk about what effect the rates are going to have on the sector that they cover and things like that. So a lot of times, we won't be the ones talking about it. Like PR people like me, we're like usually the wizard behind the curtain.
Yeah.
We're kind of calling somebody and saying, hey, there's a Fed meeting coming up. Why don't we book you on,
CNBC
on
or whatever.
CNBC or Bloomberg or something like that? Because we know you're going to have an opinion. Whatever they do, you're going to have an opinion. So we'll book that ahead of time and then kind of talk to people and see, then when it happens, like get their thinking on it. So
I can't wait to talk to you in the second half of this podcast because like I'm wondering like.
Stay tuned, everybody.
Like this is a business podcast. I'd be curious to hear what your opinion. Maybe we'll have you walk us through like a sample of what you could do for someone.
Sure.
On the marketing front. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that anyone listening who might want to possibly get a PR or marketing firm down the road, they kind of know, or get you. Who knows? There could be some cannabis owners listening in right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
And maybe commercial real estate. We've had some commercial real estate people on this podcast before.
So yeah,
we had Joey Cacciatore. We had another wonderful guy whose name is escaping me right now. We had Danny Resco.
Oh,
you probably remember the Resco,
awesome. Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
Resmar, does that ring a bell at all? They had
Totally.
a big right. He was on, telling us his story and his dad's story.
There are one of the great things about commercial real estate is the characters. Like there are some because
Totally.
There is just such a great opportunity for entrepreneurs in commercial real estate, and anywhere where an entrepreneur can, go from, pull up by their bootstraps and become a millionaire, you're going to have some really interesting personalities, right?
Totally.
And so it's, if I look at like some of the people who have become icons of the industry, like they're super entertaining. Like,
Sam Zell.
Oh yeah.
It's like a bunch of Joe Pesci's just walking around, but they look a little different.
If you had Sam Zell on this podcast, he'd like pull up in his motorcycle and, probably talk to you a little bit about cannabis. Like, who knows?
Totally. That's such a great point. I agree.
Yeah.
Like, we just rattled off 3 names right there. Sam Zell, the Rescos, Cacciatories. Have you heard the Cacciatore name? I'm sure you have, right?
I have, yeah.
They're
The
all
other
just-
thing is it's such a huge industry that there's people who are doing really significant things who don't even make the headlines because there is so much opportunity. You can be an owner of like a significant multifamily portfolio, but you're not even going to make the
Unheard of,
threshold
right.
of like what the trade media and stuff are talking about because
Right.
there is so much opportunity. So there's a lot of mid-sized businesses, a lot of opportunity for people to create their own wealth.
And people, listen here. You hear what Margy just said? Like, yo, this is a great opportunity to like use the fact that interest rates are moving back towards all-time effing lows.
Yeah.
This is unheard of. No one understands the history of America with interest rates. Like this is like unprecedented that we're going back to these.
The time.
Totally.
Get that money.
You want to borrow money for a good purpose like buying real estate. Do it now. This is the time. This is the time to jump into commercial real estate, private real estate, whatever real estate you want.
Yeah, like it's a great time to borrow money.
It really is.
I think the one issue that people would have is that we're at the top of the market. We're all like,
are we in a bubble?
Sitting on that
Right.
bubble, like you're talking about with the markets. So a lot of people, they can borrow the money, but things are costing a lot. Like
Here's the
prices
thing.
are high.
Here's the thing, right? I think about this sometimes.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. The way the government is set up in the United States of America, Congress, the president, Supreme Court, they're all interested in one main thing. And I'm sad to say this, but you guys have you heard the term Allahu Akbar in Arabic?
Of course, yeah.
All right, God is greater, like Allahu Akbar. I've coined a new term, Dollar-hu Akbar.
Oh no.
Yes, the dollar is greater than anything. Greater, that's our God. And I feel like you see with the vaping, like it's like if Tylenol was killing some people, for example, right? They would have taken it off the shelf. Which happened, right? They take it off the shelf right away.
Right.
Vaping killing people. We propose a ban. Like what? Like what do you mean you propose a ban? People are dying out there, you know.
Although I would say it's a spectrum, but it does support your theory that the dollar is, kind of
man.
our collective national religion in some way.
Totally.
Like we argue a lot about religion, but that is something that most of
No
us
one
agree
argues
on the
about.
dollar. Yeah.
Totally. So my point with that is like I have no idea what my point is because I'm getting loopy right now.
Yeah.
But it was something about how money and the dollar is what our main focus is. Congress will all agree on that. So if our bubble bursts, which I expect it to at some point burst, and I have a
Bubbles
feeling
do.
bubbles burst. They have that tendency to do. We'll talk about Saudi Arabia in a bit, and I think that could be a possible bursting. But if and when they burst, Congress will all rally together and all pass shit quickly to like reinvigorate the economy.
You think so?
I've seen
Congress
it time
can't agree on like
and time.
The ice cream is cold. It's hard. It is.
That's my point.
So hard to
that's
picture
my
them
point.
agreeing on
this
anything
is the
right now.
only thing. The only thing. that Democrats, Republicans, Independents are all like, oh, wait a minute. You're trying to tell me that Apple won't sell as many iPhones and that Wendy's won't sell as many French fries and so on and so forth. And, the assistants to all the congressmen will be like, yeah, we're going down. Oh, well, we got to pass this bill.
Let's hope. I mean, I would love to see Congress agree on something.
TARP is the best example, right? You got to remember TARP. At that time, George Bush, economy going down. Why'd you go in 9/11? Why did you go in weapons of mass destruction? No one likes you, George Bush. At the worst time, George Bush, lowest rating, they proposed the $1 trillion troubled asset relief program.
Right.
And it didn't pass the first time around. The Dow dropped 777 points. 3 days later, passes with, cough drop coming out. Yeah. Passes with flying colors.
Yeah.
And I was standing on the trading floor looking at that. I'm like, now I get this country.
Now, it was the idea of too big to fail.
Yes.
Right? Because those were all the largest banks who they did not want to take a risk that it could what happened to Bear Stearns could happen again.
And I think too big to fail can be transposed. No, it can be extended to the entire United States of America. They'll always see us as too big to fail.
I mean, you could argue that we need to see people that way, not necessarily banks. that we should be that this generation, Gen Z, that's like coming into adulthood. Is
Gen Z millennials?
They're not. They're after millennials.
Millennials.
Yeah.
So millennials are 1980 to 2000 approximately. So that would be someone who's 19 years old. So 18 and under is Gen Z.
So Gen Z actually begins in 97. I think most people are like beginning to agree on that.
I was on the cusp. I was born in 96.
Okay.
So you're Gen Z.
Or you're like
no.
The
You're
last
1 year in.
stand of the millennial generation.
I am the final millennial.
The last one.
Yeah.
Can you imagine
we
being
are
the
honored
last
to be here in
millennial?
your presence.
You're the last millennial. I'm the last millennial. Officially.
So what does that mean? What is as the last millennial? What do you get, like a T-shirt or a prize or something?
I think I just get trillions of dollars of debt.
That's fun. Student debt. No doubt.
I get all the student loan debt.
Well, we did say this is a great time to borrow money, but we weren't necessarily talking about student debt.
Yeah, definitely not talking about student debt. Man, that's not cool. So I do think they would agree on this. It is a great time to borrow money, and if you see your investment go down, O ye of little faith, have faith. The government will do everything it can to bail you. And guess what? We're still at a point with our military that people will continue to lend to us as the greatest power on earth.
They will.
For a really, really, really low interest rate. That's how the U.S. government currently is funding itself, is through really low loans. We have a huge ass American credit card that we are constantly charging on. So markets are at their highs, close to their highs. The rate cut was delivered by the Fed. Trump's like, no, you need to cut all the way to zero. I think he's on crack. I don't agree with him. You need to slow your roll down, Donnie. And
we all have theories what's going on with him. Crack, probably one of the more.
He doesn't drink alcohol.
I know. So it's probably
you think he smokes
not
crack?
That, but who knows? He might be more saner if he did. I don't know.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Did you say he might be saner?
I did.
I wasn't listening.
I did say that.
Oh, man.
It's hard to imagine what might make him less sane or make him sound less crazy. So, who knows what a little comical would do for him.
Crazy. I try my best because I'm not gonna lie. I'm kind of sick of like I lean left more than I lean right. But there's some things I agree with on the right. But in general, I lean left more than I lean right. All right. Mm-hmm. And I try I'm kind of sick of the left, especially the far left, just like railing on him so much. It gets so heavy. They rip and just rail on him and his admission. While I actually agree that a lot of the things he says and does are freaking wacky, I'm like, I don't want to hear about it 24/7. I'd rather look at his policies and just disagree with that shit.
Actually, the left has given him more of a microphone than the right ever could have done on their own. I'm a centrist as well, and when I see the number of minutes and hours and days of airtime that the allegedly liberal media has given him, it's a gift. If without the cooperation from the left in letting him set the agenda, he would never have been taken seriously the way he is. Wow. Or that's my opinion. It's media relations is something we do at my firm.
So you get it.
And well, there's actually a producer at one of the Fox channels told one of the people who work for me.
Fox Chicago or Fox National?
It was nationally.
Fox News.
It was not here in Chicago.
Fox News.
But it was one of their stations, one of the producers, and said, look, I just want to do you a favor because you've been coming to me with these pitches of really
They're speaking to you?
They were speaking to someone who works for me.
Got it.
And they said, look, I just want to be candid with you. If your story, if your pitch, what we should, they were saying, look, we have this client, he has a really cool thing to say, let's get him onto one of the shows. They have a good relationship. And they said, look, I just got to be honest with you. If it doesn't either agree or disagree with the Trump agenda, I'm not interested because that's what's driving our ratings.
You either got to outright agree or disagree.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
man.
So, and a lot of the stuff that we were pitching at the time was not, it just wasn't related to it. It was financial. It was stories.
So you respond with like, this has nothing to do with Trump.
Right.
If you can't find an angle to make it do with Trump, then
that's
no
that
shit.
how to get hung up on by a broadcast producer.
Wow.
Is say it has nothing to do with Trump.
Wow.
Yeah. So that was a pretty eye-opening moment.
Yeah.
I think personally and professionally, it was like, okay, do we act on that? Do we tell our clients that they should be doing
feels so
something on the
artificial
Trump
and
agenda?
authentic.
Yeah. Yeah.
Damn.
So it was,
But again, I want to be clear.
story.
It wasn't Fox News, the national Fox News.
it was one of the Fox affiliated broadcasts. I don't want to
affiliate.
call anybody out.
I agree. I don't want
It was a national Fox affiliated station.
Yeah, I don't want to call that either, but tell us which one. All right, so that's markets, and yeah, I would recommend now is the time to be borrowing to buy real estate. Especially the thing I love about real estate is, and I always say this on every podcast, you're borrowing, especially if you can do like a 3% FHA loan. You're borrowing $100,000 to buy a house. You only put $3,000 or $4,000 down, but you have $100,000 asset that you're hoping will go up 5%, 10% a year on $100,000 value. It's like, yo. What other country can you do that in the world? Pretty much no other country.
Yeah. I mean,
fantastic.
I love the United States. I think we're still, people, we have a lot of problems. We have a lot of things that people complain about, but we just have this wonderful economy where people really can go from nothing to being, very wealthy. The interesting thing about our culture and our economy is it can go both ways.
Yeah.
Right? Like we all have to be on our game.
I see, when you say both ways, I see the way you just described, which is like anyone could really come here, pull themselves up by the bootstraps, figure out some of the financial systems and the borrowings, and
rags to riches.
And try and get rags to
American
riches.
story. And I truly believe that we still
God
have
bless
that.
my pops. We're Palestinian.
Yeah.
We came to this country. My favorite joke is he says, I came to this country with nothing but the shirt on my back. Mm-hmm. And to the day this man passed away, may he rest in peace, he wore no pants.
What?
Damn, it didn't work.
I think we were like, what?
Dun, 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 dun,
Dun, dun.
I was waiting for it. I think it was my delivery. But and he did it. He figured it out. There was a whole lot of crazy shit that happened in between, but he figured it out.
He figured it out. And, and
we're middle class, baby.
Yeah. Middle class. You were a salesperson for JP Morgan.
What does that make me?
I don't know. You tell me.
High class, bitches. So yeah, you're right. It can go either way. I get. It's okay. I get that way. The other way is you can get really poor.
Yeah.
Because that's what this country. A lot of this country is.
You can. I mean, if you don't, if you have a family that's not a good curator of their wealth, then it can absolutely. It may take a generation or two. But I will tell you, like my family in the early 20th century, we were like the barons of industry. We were the 1%. Yeah, my maiden name's Adams.
Whoa.
We were presidents.
No shit.
Yeah.
You go back to James Adams.
So John Adams and John Quincy Adams.
I'm sorry,
were
James
cousins.
Madison. I was thinking of. So John Adams, John Quincy Adams.
Yeah,
they were your cousins.
They were cousins of my ancestor. Yeah.
No shit.
Yeah, I recently was looking up the family tree, and I'm descended from 4 guys named Eliashib Adams. I kid you not.
Wait, 4 guys named what?
Eliashib.
Eliashib. Is that
it's
a name?
One name.
One name?
Yeah,
Eliashib?
I don't know. It's
and you say you descended from 4 guys. You make it almost sound like there was gay
junior,
marriages happening, and you
senior.
somehow descended from that.
Yeah, I don't think the early
That early?
Adamses were into gay marriage.
Your family invented gay marriage.
I don't think so.
Wow, Eliashib sounds very almost like Quakery, maybe. You know?
Yeah. They were
Cool.
the Puritans. They were, and so they
Your family's been in this country for hundreds of years.
Yeah, since the early 1600s.
No shit.
Yeah.
And so they were barons. I'm sorry to laugh about this.
And they were
at some point it sounds like there's a
on
shitty
both sides of
story.
No, it is a shitty story.
I'm sorry.
No, it's true. But on both sides.
One asshole ruined it for the rest of us. His
it takes more than one asshole.
It was Eliashib Jr.
Yeah, the third out of 4 of those damned Eliashibs.
So what happened? Wait, let's hear the story. Do you know the story?
It's what happens is over time. And because we work in my business, we work with a lot of wealth managers, and it's easy. it's easy to say, oh, okay, like, careful investing and take your family wealth. But when you look at like very wealthy family, like, oh yeah, like that wealth's ever going to go away. Like you can't go through that in a lifetime. And in some families you can, but you can if there's like 3 or 4 lifetimes. If you have 3 or 4 generations of people who decide to be kind of like loser alcoholics, like eventually it's gonna go away.
Through that shit.
Eventually they'll have to sell off the real estate, and it does run out eventually.
You got to pay your dealer back somehow.
Yeah. Damn. No, it's true. So there's
at some point the Adamses or Eliashibs owned they had a lot of political connections. The Eliashib Adams. They had a lot of political power, which I can imagine helped them kind of like amass assets and things like that.
Exactly.
They're well connected. They know what's going on in the world.
Yeah.
And then that gets collected, and then it gets passed down, and you hit one kid who's like, I'm entitled. I just got all this shit. And the dad or mom did not teach him how to be like the value of a dollar and all this stuff.
Yeah.
And then he just blows through it all.
I mean, I'm not going to call out any specific people in my family tree, but like there's a couple people I can just look at and be like, you know what? They hung out. They went to a lot of parties.
Oh, really?
There's some good stories from that, but
they shouldn't have been worth $1 billion of stories though.
Yeah. Not a lot left over for the great grandkids.
Damn, that's amazing that you know all this.
I've looked at it.
I want to hear so much more about this.
That's great.
I guess as a Muslim Palestinian who just came to this country, right? Like that's all. I think we hear about like old money in America, right?
Yeah.
And so I never thought like I'd come across people like that. There was one time, I swear to you, I was at an Obama fundraiser.
Yeah.
And do you guys ever Henry Crown Center?
The Robert Crown Center?
Robert Crown Center? Is that it? Yeah. Well, that's the Crown family. They named it the Robert Crown because they paid for that. And so the Crown family is a big family.
Yeah.
In Chicago, right?
Yeah, they're huge.
Evanston? Mm-hmm. Oh, Maddy knows her shit.
They own the clock tower on Northwestern's campus as well.
They own the clock tower.
Own a shit ton of stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
So I meet like the grandfather, like the big dog, the big swinging crown dick. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
And I forget. I think it's Lester.
Sounds like an interesting meeting. I don't know.
I want to say it's Lester. And I had a friend. Who was super tight with Obama. He was one of his biggest fundraisers. He got me into like, I wasn't at the regular fundraiser. I was at like the private thing beforehand.
Yeah.
Where you're just rubbing shoulders, right? I was like, whoa, man, I've arrived, bitches, And
the VIP fundraiser.
Yeah, little did I know, I was 27. I had my head up my ass. But hey, I thought I was big shit back then. So anyway, and I'm like, who's this guy? I look at his tag. I'm like, Lester Crown. That sounds rich. I'm like, let me just go up and talk to this dude. And so I introduce myself, or I shake his hand. Like, hey. He looks at my name tag, right? And I'm like, my name's Amr Abdullah. And he's like, oh, where are you from? I'm like, I'm Palestinian. I don't know if he's Jewish or if he's a Zionist or what. He's just like, oh, okay. And he stops looking at me. He didn't move away. He just stops looking at me. And I'm like,
terrible.
I'm like, am I in this conversation still? I keep talking to someone who's not looking at me, but he's standing there.
Okay.
And I'm like, yo, I think this is one of those old money people that is just like, I got no time for this dude.
Oh, wow.
And I eventually like had to wrap up the conversation and just walk away from this dude. I was like, this is weird.
Yeah. You know, that happens.
He still talked to you, but he
wasn't present. He was there physically.
Checked out.
Oh, okay.
He kept like looking around. I think he was looking for Obama or something. I don't know.
He was looking for someone else to talk to.
Yeah, let me find a non-Palestinian is what I was making up in my head.
Oh, okay.
As a Palestinian, we get insecure about all that kind of shit.
It happens though. Like people do that.
Yep. So that's markets and this government. I think trying to do everything they can to revive the economy if shit were to hit the fan. So I think you can feel okay. Let's quickly move on to the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. I don't think people appreciate the fact that we were almost in a war this week.
Yeah, it's probably not getting the press that it should.
No, it is not.
That was a close call.
I mean,
This is the first time I'm hearing it. So
no shit. See, there you go.
Yeah.
There you go. The last millennial, first time you're hearing it.
Yep.
So, I mean, an act of war occurred, in my honest opinion, on the country of Saudi Arabia.
Right.
Supposedly, it's Iran. Iran sent many drones into Saudi Arabia. Those drones then sent missiles into large parts of Aramco, which is Saudi's big oil company,
Right.
which they're trying to go public in the next 12 months. We've talked about it on this podcast before. Do you remember, John? Aramco trying to go public?
Yeah, I remember you saying Ramco.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the last millennial.
Yeah. We have a bright future ahead of us, people.
I remember you saying, he's like, I remember you saying Ramco. I'm like, what is Ramco? Is that like,
like
the
the
new
restaurant,
version of
the
Rambo? Ramco. It's Aramco. Ramco does not exist, at least in this podcast today. But I'm glad you remember the name. And so, yeah. So half of Saudi's oil producing facility destroyed. Destroyed through missiles. Under any other circumstance, any other year, maybe like 5-7 years ago, we would be marching in there the way we marched into Kuwait to push back Saddam Hussein. Right? Saddam Hussein, Kuwait is way smaller of an oil supplier to the world than Saudi.
Yeah.
Way smaller.
Yeah.
But we marched right into Kuwait and just, Operation Desert Storm, Here, we did nothing. In fact, Trump's first response was like, we're locked and loaded. And then his second tweet was, we're waiting on the Saudi Arabia to tell us who to hit. And the third tweet was, we're waiting on Saudi Arabia to tell us what to do. And it's like, dude, what's going on? Like, are you not America, the most powerful country in the world? Like, dude, you sound like you're operating from a place of weakness. And so when I heard that, I'm like, whoa, we're not going to war.
Yeah.
We are not. The moment he said that, like locked and loaded, I was like, okay, we're going to war. This is not a surprise. And I hope everyone's ready because this is coming out of left field. And that wasn't coming out of left field, but it's like it's going to surprise people. And then we didn't go to war.
Well, I think what's interesting is that we're not as reliant on foreign oil as we used to be. There was a time when if half of Saudi Arabia's oil capacity was knocked out, like that would immediately have an effect at the pump for like families in America, and it would, it'd be like an immediate effect, but we're not in that place anymore. Like we've got a very different energy mix than we used to.
Very different.
So I think it's a whole different conversation.
That's half the story in my opinion.
Yeah. Okay, it's not the whole story.
Maybe that's maybe that's 70%. Here's the other 30%. All right. So Iran as a country is nothing to sneeze at. They have the strongest military in the Middle East. Way stronger than Saudis. And the fact is, what am I trying to say here? Iran, if they wanted to, in my opinion, could wreak some real damage on the Middle East. Mm-hmm. All right? And I think it would be very difficult for the U.S. to protect all of the Middle East in that way. In fact, I don't think they could. So let me tell you what I mean. So if the U.S. would have immediately responded with hitting Iranian targets, Iran, I think, is kind of like the Japanese kamikaze type of mentality and culture. They'll just start, all out firing missiles and, fighter jets and everything. They would go straight, attacking Riyadh. They would attack Dubai. They'd probably attack Abu Dhabi. All of these oil-centric Kuwait. They'd probably just start attacking American troops in Afghanistan. They just start sending stuff that way because they're right there in the middle of all that. And so I think what's actually happening here is, so that's part of it is we have a different oil mix, but the other part of it is I think Trump has stepped in, has removed this pact, this 2015 nuclear pact we had with them. Mm-hmm. And so Iran is now poking at the bear. Poking. Mm-hmm. Because I don't know if you guys remember, but there's a pattern here. About 6 weeks ago, a ship was blown up in the Gulf.
Yeah.
A few weeks later, another ship was blown up.
Kind of like a poke.
Another couple weeks later, that was May and June. And then in July, I believe, 2 months ago, an American drone was shot down by Iran.
What's interesting about the whole situation is that we have someone who is a business leader in the White House. Yeah. Right? I mean, if you take a step back from the whole thing, he has zero foreign policy experience,
correct,
zero public sector experience. It's all about business for him. And so at the end of the day, it never makes business sense to blow shit up. Really. I mean, there might be some exceptions to that rule.
I gotcha.
But I think that his decision making, I find it interesting when people in the media try to analyze, like, what's Trump going to do? Like, how the heck does anybody know what Trump's going to do? But, it really can't be analyzed using traditional methods because he's not like any president we've ever had before. Right. And so, we're going to have to look at that differently and assess, if Iran does keep poking and keep doing this, like, how will our government respond? Nobody knows. At
this point, it became clear to me why. Because, and I'm trying to make my point. I'm having trouble making it because I'm a little sick. But I think what happened is we started putting all this pressure on Iran. We backed out of this nuclear pact. We started putting all this pressure on Iran.
Yeah, so they're lashing out.
And then they're starting to get economically squeezed, and they're like, we're not going to die, so we're going to start poking at the bear and see what happens. Yeah. Maybe they'll take their foot off our neck. So they poke at the bear with the ship. They poke at the bear with the second ship. They poke at the bear by shooting down the USA drone. Right. And then here we go. They finally blow up half of Aramco.
Yeah. I mean, it's pretty big poke.
Pretty big poke, right? Yeah. And look, 4 in a row, we've done nothing. You know why? Because I think we know, oh shit, we've pissed these guys off. And if we really piss them off more now, they're going to just start attacking Dubai, Riyadh. They're going to just attack everywhere. And it'll be friggin' mayhem in the Middle East. It will be so ugly. And then Trump will be like, oops, maybe I should have stayed in that nuclear pact. So they can't really... I think, look, Saudi Arabia just last year bought $150 billion in military equipment. Right. Fighter jets. Why aren't they using that to fight back right now? They just got attacked. It was an act of war. They're just sitting on their hands.
Spend a lot of money on that stuff. Yeah.
Right? So I think they all know, like, okay, we'd get destroyed by Iran. America's not willing to step up. So all of this is to say, part of the reason we're not fighting back is because oil has changed. The dynamic around oil has changed, and we can do shale now. We can refine shale. Yeah. But the other part, I think, is if we were to attack them right now, they would go balls out and just start attacking the whole Middle East. Yeah. Why not? Because their economy is just completely strangled right now.
Don't they also have nuclear arms?
I believe they have some advanced technologies around nuclear arms, but they don't have full nuclear arms. They're working on it.
That's the big debate. Some people think they're hiding them and that they have them. Right. Most people think they don't really have them, but they almost have them.
Correct.
That's the thing about this whole situation, I think, is that the one thing we can all be certain of is that we don't have the whole story. Whether they have nuclear, why Saudi Arabia is doing whatever Saudi Arabia wants to do. We haven't even brought up what they've been doing with Yemen, the humanitarian crisis there, and this was all related to that war. Yep. So that we really, as a country, don't have, we shouldn't have a horse in that race. That isn't, other than, caring about the humanity that's being correct. That's being
unfortunately affected. Yes.
Yeah. So we don't know what's going on.
Yeah, we don't have the full story. Yeah. We do know that 4 things, America/Saudi have been attacked 4 times, and we've done nothing about it. We've done, and the biggest one was just happened. Aramco is now half down. Yeah. Global oil jumped 20%. It's back down a little bit. It's probably only still up around 10%, I think. Yeah. So here's my call. I don't think Iran's going to stop. No. We just now put sanctions. So here's our response. Trump today put sanctions on the National Bank of Iran, right, to try and squeeze them more economically. What do you think Iran's going to do? Why would they stop doing the shit that they've been doing? So they're just going to keep doing some more shit. I mean, Saudi hasn't done anything. USA hasn't responded. It's until, I think all this is like planting seeds so that if Democrats do win, we would just go in and just negotiate something with them so that all this would stop.
It's a long way away, man. It
is.
The 2020 election is still quite a ways away.
If Iran does what I believe they're going to do, which is continue to attack oil because they can't sell their own oil, I think my big call is buy oil, baby. If you got some cash in your stash and you want to buy some stuff, buy oil. I could see, hypothetically, oil going back up to $100. That could be
$100 a barrel.
Can you believe that?
You're going for that. You're saying we're going to get there again.
I mean, I think it's a little bit. I think I'm trying to be a little aggressive with that call. Uh-huh. And there's been 4 major things that have happened on the oil vessels or on Aramco since May. So 4 months. So we're due for next month, and the month after, and the month after. Iran is probably really suffering right now, so they're like, no, we're going to do something. So, yeah, I think If they would have, if the Saudi and the U.S. would have fought back, I would have been like, okay, we're going to be able to keep prices a little bit lower.
Yeah.
Maybe not. I don't know. But I think all this is just very, very dangerous for the price of oil and could go higher,
Well, that
which
would be
could
very
hurt
interesting in all of the markets affected by oil, right?
all of them. That's what I was
Particularly
saying.
if it's not just a jump, if that's something that's going to be extended, that
Exactly.
prices are going to go back there and maintain again. I mean, that opens up a lot of things.
Huge. So that's what I was saying. We're trying to cut rates. We're trying to do all this stuff. If oil goes back to $75 or $100 a barrel, I mean, we're at $65, so it goes up $35 more. That is a bubble burster, people. Last but not least, right? Last but not least, let's go on to vaping. Walmart announced just a few hours ago.
I wondered how you're going to transition that, like going from the oil fields of Saudi Arabia to our vaping crisis in the U.S.
This is called professional podcasting, Margie Sweeney. Right?
Okay, they're both oil. That's what we're going for.
You're right. That's a great transition.
From petroleum oil to cannabis oil. Here, let's do this.
Speaking of,
Yes.
I learned this from a toxic tort lawyer. That was
Toxic
me
tarts.
being tart.
Yeah, that sounds like a Jewel flavor.
It really does, doesn't it?
It's sweet tart, smoking sweet tarts in a Jewel.
The sweet tart vape pen, not at all marketed to children.
That would be amazing. A toxic tort lawyer, and I learned from them that there is no oil that if you vaporize it, it will not act as a clog to your capillaries and your alveoli in your lungs. Your lungs are like a filter, and if you try and burn macadamia nut oil or cannabis oil, whatever oil you want to vaporize and inhale, it will impact your lungs.
So it's
Hey,
interesting.
almost
I've heard
like
so many different theories.
Almost
on
like it's a filter. Your lungs are a filter, and you try and
No,
paint
I hear ya.
epoxy on it.
You know, it's funny. There are people whose opinions I respect and I trust who are on so many different sides of this. You know, and I think earlier you were talking about the almighty dollar, and I find it hard to believe that like everyone is so motivated by the dollar that they would be, you know, giving out and selling vape pens that they know are going to have, you know, possibly toxic and definitely fatal effects on people. You know, I don't think anyone's intentionally doing that.
Yeah, these are 3 years. These are. I mean, we're only getting deaths right now after 3 or 4 years, so
Right.
it's.
And I
I just don't think it's been studied.
Well, it hasn't because it's been illegal to study. So this is where our federal government has done such a huge disservice. And
Vaping has been illegal to study?
So cannabis vaping has been illegal to study because it has been, you know, illegal. So there's this incredible lack of research and lack of true information. And even I would say, you know, if you want to include e-cigarettes and tobacco vaping in it, you also have a research universe that's so influenced by the large tobacco companies that I don't think we can say that there's unbiased research out there on any of this. You know, I think that everyone claims to know, you know, to have a definite opinion and that they have all these facts. Well, no one has all of the right facts on this topic. And so everyone needs to make as informed a decision as they can, understanding that no one opinion is 100% as informed as it should be. You know, so everyone's got to make the right decision for themselves. But there's definitely, like, if you look at the vaping products out there, and this is, we've learned a lot about this as we've, you know, gotten our business into the cannabis space. There are cannabis oils that are made in facilities that are clean rooms and that are pharmaceutical grade that really care about, you know, growing.
Super sterile.
Oh yeah, and not only that, but that uses cannabis that has been grown to organic standards. You can't actually get organic certified because it's federally illegal, so it's kind of a circular thing.
Almost organic.
Yeah, or sometimes probably to higher standards than organic would be, but you just can't get that certification. So there are companies that are making incredibly pure cannabis oil and making and who are extremely dedicated to organic standards and that know that there's so many health and wellness benefits to cannabis that can be promoted and that really can be derived. And these people are passionate. Like if you want like people who are passionate about their products, look to the cannabis industry because people have had their lives transformed, you know, and people have been able to control conditions like seizures and anxiety that no other medication works for them. And tons of people have actually been, you know, have sort of been reversed out of the opioid cycle by being able to use cannabis products. And, when this vaping issue is real and people have to pay attention to it. I mean, because if people are using cannabis and vaping and it does turn out that there's something inherent to the act of vaping that it could be potentially fatal, then, I mean, it's going to have to be regulated and stopped. But I don't think we've gotten to the point where they have said that what the lawyer that you're talking about, like that's a pretty extreme position that any type of vaping is doing something harmful.
Heating up and vaporizing any oil will coat your lungs in a way that'll major negative impact.
And not everyone agrees with that statement, I don't think. And so there's, like I said, there's a lot of people in
a lot of
this
stuff
industry.
going on,
I mean, a lot of industries who will, if you say something with authority, then it must be true.
Right. We haven't gotten those unbiased research conclusions, you're saying.
Yeah.
You haven't seen them, and you're right. I haven't read about them necessarily either.
There are scientists at so many universities just like who really want to study this, who really want to do this, but they want to do it legally.
Correct.
And it's been, they're starting to. Like there's a lot more
because some states now it's legal.
Yeah. It's the markets are mature enough in California and Colorado and Washington and Oregon that they're starting to have more studies, but these things take so much time.
Yep.
That it's really just this body of research is really just beginning.
Okay.
And
you're basically saying, hey, let's tease out and split out vaping in general, vaporizing oil, and before we say hey, all vaporizing oil is bad, you're saying let's split that out from hey, maybe there's some bad players out there and they could be causing this damage.
Well, I mean, I think it's common sense that if you have a choice, if you're looking at a vaping product that is clearly being marketed to children and has all kinds of chemicals in it and is a very socially unresponsible product in so many ways, then that needs something, there's something wrong about that, and you probably shouldn't put it in your body. Let's just talk about individual choice. And but if you have something that's grown to organic standards and is a pure oil and it doesn't have chemicals in it like PEG is a common chemical added to vape pens, and many vape pens will say we do not add PEG to our vape pens. All of our materials are organic, and when you have that situation, which there's a spectrum, I guess is what I'm saying. And so there's one comparison I've heard with the movement that's being made to like, let's make sure to get all these jewel pens off the shelves and things like that. Like we live in a capitalist society and we can't just jump to regulating everything that could be bad for people. We don't regulate a lot of things that are bad for people. So I think there needs to be some measured discussion about this. And also, let's use the laws and regulations that we have. These things should not be marketed to kids, and clearly there are cases where
they have been. So this is where you come in, right?
Common sense.
I've got so many thoughts to ask you, but like the first one is this. Before we get to the kids marketing part, this should hypothetically be a boon for you as a PR marketing person, because a lot of these. I mean, I thought maybe you're just focusing on regular. Cannabis, like marijuana buds, but it sounds like some of your clients may also be
absolutely.
Oil.
Yeah, I mean, the more sophisticated cannabis companies have a full spectrum of products. They have edibles. They will have they'll have inhalants. They'll have edibles, and they will there are a lot of different ways. And topicals is the other major category. So lotions and things like that.
Right. So has this been a boon for you, where you have to be like going out to your bigger cannabis clients and being like, hey, you guys need to respond to what's happening out there in the world, or has this been like it's just one of the options you guys sell? Don't worry about this.
I would never consider something where people have died to be a boon to us. Like
good point. I guess what I mean, not boon.
I wouldn't look at that in that way, but
I mean, boon. I mean boon in like. I do mean boon. Boon meaning like you need to you guys need to respond.
Yeah.
You need to respond to what's happening out there in the world. You can't just sit on your hands.
Yeah.
Whether it's hey, we agree that this is bad, so we've pulled our products. You might say that.
It's an issue that anybody in the cannabis industry should be responding to and talking about their products and and being authentic and honest about what they're selling. So
have you been doing that?
Yeah,
with...
we've been giving people that advice. Okay. Absolutely. Any client that we're working with, it should have a point of view on this.
Right.
And they should be being candid with their clients about what they do. And if they don't know the answers, they should say, we're studying this, we're looking at this, and
we're not ignoring it.
Right.
That's what I meant.
And if there's any question that a product that a company is selling could be killing people, then they need to be looking
red flags
hard at that.
Yes.
Yeah. And I mean, but like everything, I don't personally agree with the idea that regulation is the answer to everything. This is already a space that, because the product has been traditionally illegal, there are all kinds of super wacky regulations in it. And and I think that there's enough regulation already in place that isn't being enforced, that enforcement is actually a huge way that this can be, that the vaping crisis can be combated, because, you aren't, I mean, I want to go to the place where we're talking about marketing to kids. There are companies that have absolutely been marketing to people who are under 21.
Let's take the biggest 18. One, Juul.
Yeah.
You have experienced that? I don't watch much of the marketing.
In my opinion,
give us an example.
They're fruit flavored pens,
Mango.
For example. Yeah, that's clearly...
Everyone I bump down the street and they want me to smoke their USB stick, like, it's mango. I'm like, why does everyone love mango so much?
Yeah, I can't explain the mango.
In season, baby. In season.
An answer for you there.
So you're saying the fruit flavors alone is marketing to kids?
You know what? And there's any good lawyer, any good marketer could say, well, adults like fruit too, but there's been a lot of marketing studies that show if you're trying to kind of take the edge off the taste of tobacco or the taste of cannabis, and you do it with fruit flavors and sweet flavors, that's a way to get children into, and if you're under 18, you're a child. I mean, teenagers don't like to hear that. Definitely
right.
16, 17-year-olds really hate hearing
That's why
that.
they want to vape. They want to feel older.
But when it comes to regulations, you are not supposed to be marketing to that set. And that is bringing people in. That is,
Really?
saying,
okay, so you take a pretty...
this is easier.
It was ambiguous to me. I was like, I mean, there's fruit-flavored everything. Why can't there be fruit-flavored vapes?
It's because it makes it better tasting and kind of draws people in at a younger age. And most of the research on all of this stuff says that the effects that any given chemical or plant has on a body, like cannabis, is not cool for to be used recreationally by people who are under 18.
Right.
Like,
that makes sense. It'll impact your brain development and things like that.
Exactly.
Because you're still developing.
It's bad news.
Yeah.
And, there's people who would argue with that. And there's definitely exceptions to that. For example, it can be used as medicine for kids who have seizures.
Sure.
And under close doctor supervision.
Right. Like regular medicine. Like regular medicine.
But just like for teenagers smoking weed, that is 100% bad for their mental development. And like the Juul pens, there is nothing good about that for a body that is still developing. And what research we have, which is imperfect, but it's abundantly clear, common sense and research-wise, that companies should not be marketing to that. And there are regulations that say that they can't, and they just need to be enforced. And we don't, as a culture, I think on this topic and probably some others, we don't enforce the laws that we have. And so we don't need more laws. We need to enforce what is already there.
I.e., don't be smoking under 18, enforce those damn laws.
Yeah.
And that's how you'll stop a lot of this vaping bullshit.
Right. I mean, I'm not a Pollyanna. I know that the cannabis that companies sell legally to adults, some of it winds up in kids' hands.
Just like alcohol.
Right. But that doesn't mean that something should be literally packaged and designed and psychologically engineered to be of interest to a 16-year-old or
looks like a USB stick, man. That's a technology world. Like, I love that. Okay, so I got you. So you're saying, hey, jury's still out in your mind about is all vaping bad? You're like, come on, I haven't seen the research yet. And you're saying you are talking to your clients and you're saying, hey, you guys need to respond on this. Here's what I suggest you say. Be authentic. Say things like, hey, this is a big deal to us. If it really is hurting, we want to know, and we're figuring out the answers.
And then I'm not an expert. Like,
you're an expert in marketing and PR, and so you know how to deliver the message.
I'm an expert on delivering messages on what you should do with your business, to what you should be addressing, what you shouldn't be addressing.
Right.
But you also like,
and how
I think,
to address.
Yeah, everyone needs to be real about the fact that they don't have the answers on certain things. But
Right.
I'm a huge believer in authenticity and business leadership, and that's in times whenever there's a time of crisis, whenever there is something that is confusing or potentially harmful, that's when you need to be at your most authentic, in my opinion.
Yeah, because there's so much uncertainty in that moment.
Absolutely.
Just be real.
Yeah.
Because you don't know what the F's about to come down the pike.
Right. We
And-
worked with banks during the financial crisis, and it was be honest. And nobody wanted to be. Nobody wanted to make statements. You remember, it's the TARP days.
Totally.
Right? And nobody wanted to talk about the poison in their portfolio and things like that. Because, boy, it was there.
Wait. Yeah, that was like 8-9 years ago. 8 years ago.
10
Shit.
years ago
10
now,
years ago.
really,
So
yeah.
you were just starting in this business, right?
Well, I've been doing PR in the sector for 25 years.
I'm sorry. Okay, I
So-
misunderstood you. Okay.
Yeah, no, I've been doing what I do since the 90s. So.
No shit. And then, it was hard for them to be real, right?
Oh, absolutely. Who wants to talk about that?
I agree.
You bless you.
Thank you. Oh yeah, I was waiting for one of those to come.
But it's when the going gets tough is when authentic leadership is most important.
Yeah.
And authentic leadership means authentic communication. And sometimes it means saying, I don't know. We don't know the answer to
That
this.
could be the most real thing to say.
We're trying to be responsible. We care about the lives and health of our customers. So this is what we're doing.
Right.
And that's all anybody can expect.
And the third thing you concluding is, yes, I do believe Juul and others are marketing to kids. This whole fruit thing is
I think
totally
so.
packaged. I've seen a lot of packaging, and I think this is what it's being geared towards.
Yeah.
That needs to end. Cool. I like that.
That's my point of view.
The only market thing I'll say confidently is Altria was trying to merge with Philip Morris because big tobacco's been hurt by vaping, right? All the people are smoking less cigarettes and they're hitting more vape pens, and so Altria was trying to merge with Philip Morris. They can probably push that through in the Trump administration. However, it all feels shaky now. So if you were hoping for an Altria Philip Morris merger, that probably is not going to happen.
Well, they already have their fingers in the cannabis industry, so I don't think anyone needs to worry about Altria. They're going to do just fine.
Oh, Altria does have, they probably bought some sort of cannabis maker, right?
Yeah.
They also bought 35% or 30% of Juul. And that is actually where the hit's going to be. They're probably going to get sued in a huge way and have to deal with that.
Well, and if they've been consciously marketing to kids, then that's why we have a justice system. That's why people are able to do that.
Totally.
Logical consequence of their actions.